Hello everyone, welcome along to another video by Art Club. We are going to have a look today at how to draw hands. Now, drawing hands is one of the most complicated things you can do, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't give it a go. The reason it's complicated is because if we look at some hands, here are mine, you can see that they are complicated structures. You know, you've got the kind of palm at the back of the hand, and then each one of the fingers has all these different joints, so they move around in such interesting ways. But there are a few ways that we can approach drawing hands that is going to make things a little bit easier for you. So we'll give it a go today. What you're going to need is a pencil or two and a rubber as well. So I'm just going to bring in my piece of paper here and we will start. So to begin with, what I'm going to ask you to do is just place your hand down on a piece of paper, and if you can leave a bit of space over here, we're going to do another drawing over here. So the first thing you're going to do is take a pencil and just draw around the outside of your hand. Now I've got my fingers just spread out a tiny little bit, and that's going to make it easier for you to draw around your hand. You might be able to hear the small gale that is blowing outside my window, but hopefully you can hear me too. Okay, so we've drawn around our hand, and what we can start to do is think about breaking this shape, this quite complicated shape, down into simpler parts. This is what I do when I'm drawing pretty much anything. I start to think, okay, what shapes can I find in here that are simpler than trying to draw this, which is quite complicated. So let's start, and I'm going to use a different colour so that you can see this. You could just use your same pencil you began with. So we've got this line that kind of goes across where the fingers join onto the palm. And then we'll bring that down here and here to the point where it joins the wrist. So this strange little shape here is the kind of basis for the whole hand. Then let's have a look at the fingers. So they come off at they come upright from the palm here, and they're just kind of rectangle shapes. So we'll join those on. And then the thumb is a bit different. If we look at the thumb, it kind of joins on at the side here. It's not kind of flat, like these ones are facing forward, and this thumb is kind of twisted to one side. So if we look here, there's a couple of shapes we can see. There's a triangle that comes out from the side of the palm here, and then again the thumb is going to come off at a kind of rectangle here. And then let's just put the wrist in there too. So that is your basic hand shape. It shows you how you can start with something complicated and break it down into these simpler shapes so that you can draw it more easily. So over on this side, I'm going to start a new drawing, and what I'm going to do is, instead of this time drawing around my hand, I'm going to try and see if I can draw a hand by looking at these shapes that I've already done over here. And once you can draw a hand using just these shapes, what it means is that you can then draw a hand at any size. So you might not always want to draw a hand life size. You might want to draw it a bit smaller or even a bit bigger. So if we try drawing it with the shapes, then that's really going to help us. So I'm just going to sketch these in. If at any point you feel like you have put something in the wrong place, notice how I'm drawing with quite a kind of light, sketchy line, and that means I can easily kind of change it as I go along. So, look down here, I drew in this line, then realized it was a bit too small and just extended it out. And then I can always go back in with a rubber and just change any areas that I need to. Okay, so I've got my basics in here now, and I've just taken a rubber and just got rid of any of those extra lines that I don't want in there. And now what I want to do is to take this hand, which at the moment looks quite robotic, and I want to make it look a bit more human. So I want to introduce some of the features that make a hand so distinctive. So first of all, I'm going to look and find all the places where there are little joints. So at the knuckles here, also here in the center of the fingers, and then this little joint at the fingertip as well. And I'm just going to draw those in almost as little circles. And that's going to help to remind me that this is not a kind of solid thing, but that actually it's got all these kind of joints in there. One thing you can do as well, because we've done this life size, if you can't quite figure out where to put the joints, just place your finger down and say, okay, it's here. Hand is a really good thing to draw because you've pretty much always got one there to draw. So thumb's a bit different again, just this one joint here. So next we're going to have a look at all of these kind of edges. At the moment they are quite sort of straight, regular lines. I just want to soften them up a bit. The hand, these lines here are often not completely straight. They've got little curves to them. It tends to come out a little bit around where you've got all these joints. So we're going to be able to draw that nicely now because we've already put in where the joints are. So let's just start to go around and look at where these lines tend to kind of move around a little bit, if they sort of splay outwards or go inwards. So it's helpful if you draw with your hand, the hand that you're not drawing. If you have your hand next to you as a reference, that's really useful. So now it's starting to look a little bit more lifelike, and we're going to continue to add a few more features, starting with the fingernails. So to do those, I'm just going to have a really good look at my own hand and just see how they just sit in slightly from the edges of the finger, and they tend to have a little curve at the base and then another little curve at the top. So let's just pop those all in. They tend to have as well the white of the fingernail at the top. So you could just put in a little line that suggests the white of the fingernail, so underneath here. I'm going to add a little bit of shading to these fingernails in a minute. Now I'd like you to have a look at these little spaces in between the fingers here. You can see that you can the finger joints come down here, and then you can see a little bit of the palm behind there. So I would draw that by drawing in these little curved lines here. And then drawing in this little piece of skin that you can see behind. It's one of those little small features that really helps to show the hand as accurately as you can. We'll have a look at the thumb join as well. See how the palm of the hand comes down here, and then you get this little crease here. So let's draw that crease in. And let's also put in the little joint here. So it's just going to be almost like a tiny line that you can see. So what I want to do now is to add some shading to this drawing to give it a bit more sense of the shape of the hand. If you look at my hand over here and try and just half shut your eyes so you can see these shadows really well. You can see that down the left hand side here there's a darker patch, and in here, also here, and actually down the side of each of the fingers you get these patches of shadow. So we're going to start to put those in, and I'm going to start quite roughly, just sketching them in. I can always go back and neaten things up, but I want to begin just by blocking in some of this shadow. Now let's look again at these joints here. At the moment I've got them in as these circles, but if I look really carefully you can see that actually there are these little lines that show the shape of the joints, but it's not quite such a clear circle. I just put those in at the beginning so that we could keep an eye on where they were, but now we can just go in and make a few changes. Let's have a look at the back of the hand here as well. See, here I've got it kind of completely flat. Actually, there's quite a lot of shape to it where you have these kind of muscles and bones that make up the hand. So we could start to just add in a little bit of shading. So if I look at, over here, let's put in a little bit of shading so that that's really clear. And while we're doing that as well, if I look at these kind of knuckles, there's some areas where I want to kind of add a bit of shading there too. A little look at the fingernails now, and actually we're going to put some shading on those as well. If you notice how on either kind of side of the nail it is darker, and then you get this kind of patch of light in the center. So let's work across the nails and just add in a little bit of shading on either side of the nail. It makes them seem much more kind of three-dimensional. So I'm just going to keep working into this drawing, adding kind of extra shading, extra detail as I see it. So I might find these little kind of wrinkles on the hand here and start to draw those in. You can kind of build it up as much as you want using shading. So here is my finished drawing. I could keep going if I wanted. I could just keep building up the shading and the detail, but for today I'm going to leave it there. The final thing I wanted to say to you is just that the more you can do little quick sketches, so here I've tried out drawing the hand in lots of different positions. I've just taken one of my hands and moved it around. The more you do this, the easier things get. But I hope you can have a go at this exercise. Let me know if you do. I'd really like to see the pictures that you come up with. As always, remember to subscribe to the Art Club channel and like this video. And we hope to see you soon. Bye now.